Hey gang, welcome back. The last video we did the chroma chart for yellow red, so I hope you're well rested. I hope you have your coffee with you. Hold on to your hats. We are going to blow through this last 9 and get her done. So let's get right to the palette. We talked last time about how you're going to mix, always mixing between corresponding values. You start with your string of gray on the left. Start with your string of the particular hue you're going to work with all the way on the right, on the palette that's marked with the left side of value, marked with values, and the bottom from left to right marked with chroma. Start with your neutrals on the left, start with your thing or your string on the right, and then you're going to place the values of your string at the appropriate chroma designations, which I'm going to show you with each one of the remaining 9. So here we go. Okay, so we're going to move on to yellow. Now again, this is all mixed, so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go right through these so you can get them done. Hold on one second. Okay. So, reminder. Yellow, right? We're going to start now with yellow. The string of yellow, hold on. There we go. Sorry, I just had a little adjustment on the computer. If you remember, string of yellow, cad yellow light at a 9, raw umber at a 2. You're going to mix those together for your 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. And then at the 1, you add just a touch of black to your raw umber. So that's the string. I had that all the way on the right, just so that I had these two lined up. And then I began to adjust and move each value to its proper chroma designation. So yellow at the 9, which is your most chromatic value, that's right out of the tube. Yellow moves back to 10 steps out in chroma. That's at the 9. So as we're moving down in value, we add a little bit of the raw umber for the 8. That steps back. The 8 value is at 8 steps out in chroma. We add a little bit more of the raw umber in for the 7. That stays at 8 steps out in chroma. Now remember with the last video I mentioned, I reminded you, we're doing every other step just to keep this a little more manageable in terms of a project. The reason that some of these will stack up on top of each other is the chroma doesn't drop fast enough to move back an entire space. Because remember, we've got some play between these. So in this case, the 8 value drops back 1. The 7 value does not drop in chroma enough to move back an entire step, so it stays at 8 steps in chroma. But now by the time we get to the 6th value, it steps back 1 more to a 6 chroma. The 5 and the 4 values maintain or stay at the 6th step in chroma. By the time we get down to the 3rd value, it drops again to 4 steps out in chroma. And then finally to the pure raw umber, drops to 2 steps out in chroma. And the 1 value, which is the raw umber with a little black, is also 2 steps in chroma. So you can see the pattern that's created from the 9 value at 10 steps in chroma. As the value drops, the chroma steps back, right? So that's what yellow looks like on the palette. This is what the yellow looks like on the chart. Okay. The 9, which is the most chromatic, that's cad yellow light, 10 steps, down to the 8, which is 8 steps, to the 7 value, which is still 8 steps out in chroma, to the 6 value, which steps back to 6 steps in chroma, to the 5, which stays 6 steps in chroma, to the 4, which stays at 6 steps in chroma, To the 3, steps back again to 4 steps. To the 2, which is the pure raw umber, 2 steps, and the 1, which is the raw umber and black. Remember, all I'm doing to get the steps in between is once I place the value at its proper chroma step, hold on. Once I place the value at its proper chroma step, in this case the pure cad yellow light at 10 steps out in chroma, all I need to do to mix up the other steps is add the corresponding gray. So from 10 steps, which is the pure cad yellow light, we have what? 8, 6, 4, and 2 that need to be mixed. So all I'm doing is taking the cad yellow light and adding more and more of the neutral gray at the corresponding 9 value. Move down to 8. Take the 8, put it in its proper chroma location, which is 8 steps out. Mix it with the 8 value for my 6, 4, and 2 chroma, and so on. So hopefully that makes sense. I know with people doing it in the studio, it usually takes them 1 or 2 before they get the gist. And then as soon as they get the chroma designations, they can just get everything laid out. It's going to take a while. Take your time. Again, reminder what we're looking for when you finish up the chart. And it's very easy, or easier, I should say, to see once you have the chart down and painted. You're looking at each step out in chroma, looking from top to bottom to try to iron out any inconsistencies in chroma from light to dark. That's yellow. We're going to take a break and move. We already did the yellow-red, so we're going to go from yellow to red. Okay, we're back with red. So, reminder on the color wheel. Red is cadmium red medium at the 4th value. Just add white for your 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. At the 2nd value, you're going to bracket, which means you're going to mix one part and one part, or you're going to mix 2 pigments together. You're mixing alizarin crimson, which is red, red, purple, and burnt umber, which was our yellow, red. We're going to mix those 2 together at the 2, use that to darken the 4 for the 3, and then just add a little bit of black to that for the 1. Again, you can go back and find the particular formulas. Now, you know what? I had everything sitting available so that I could give it to you, and of course I now can't find it. I'll make sure to dig it up by the next video. I think it's a 1-to-1. Oh, nah, that's not it. I think it's a 1-to-1 ratio of alizarin and burnt umber, but I'll dig it up for you. But either way, we're dealing with cad red medium at the 4. At the 2, a combination of alizarin and burnt umber, and then a little black to that. So again, neutrals on the left. I had my string of red on the right, then I begin to place it. So most chromatic, start with the most chromatic value, which is the 4, the cad red deep. 14 steps out in chroma, cad red medium. That obviously then leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 grays that you're going to mix. 6 steps between the 4 value cad red medium and the 4 gray. So cad red medium, 4 value is 14 steps out in chroma. At the 5th value, it steps back to 12. At the 6th value, so we're adding more white, which is bringing the chroma down. At the 6th value, steps back to 10. 7th value steps back to 8. 8th value steps back to 6. 9th value steps back to 4. As we go below the cad red medium at 14 steps out, add a little bit of the 2 value combination for the 3 value, steps back to 12. Then we get to the 2nd value, the 2 value, where you have the combination of alizarin and burnt umber, steps way back to 4 steps out in chroma, and then add a little bit of black, bringing it down to 1, drops back to 2 steps out in chroma. Again, mixing corresponding values and the chart. When it's finished. Right. 8, 7, 6, 5, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 where it peaks in chroma. 3 drops back, 2 drops way back, 1. That nice wave of chroma. So that's it for red. Take a break, we get to red purple. Okay, back with red purple. And my apology, I realized as I was pulling this stuff out, I neglected to mention in the supplies the tube of paint that you need for red purple, which is quinacridone magenta. So we look at our string on the value scale color wheel. Quinacridone magenta at home value is at a 3. Whoops, 1, 2, 3 at a 3. All we're doing is adding white for the higher values and adding black for the 2 and the 1. And remember, this is the first time now we've gotten to the point where, or we've gotten to this position where the home value and the full chroma are not the same. You remember that from the color wheel, that sometimes they overlap, like with the cadmiums, and sometimes the home value and the full chroma separate. This is the first one we've dealt with right now that is separated. So we have the home value is a 3, but it isn't until we get up to the 4 that we reach full chroma. And as a matter of fact, between the 4 and the 5, they're actually so close. We get to that idea that, right, we're jumping steps, that even from going from 4 to 5, they are close enough in chroma that they're going to stay lined up. If we had the in-between chroma steps, we could stagger these a little bit, but we don't have that, and it would be a bit of a jump to move the 4 back, I'm sorry, the 5 back another step. So some of these, as you're going to see from here on with the cool colors, we're going to see some more of these stacked values. But keep in mind the 4th value is the most chromatic for red purple. So you also notice then from the last 2 that as we're beginning to move down towards the cooler side of the spectrum, what's happening? The chroma range is dropping back. We started with yellow-red all the way out at 16. Then we jumped over to yellow where it was 12, then to red where it was 14, right? So you can see with those 2, it's dropping back. Now we're at red purple, and the highest chroma at the 4 value, 5 very close behind, peaks at 10 steps out in chroma. So, pardon me. We have the 4 value, 10 steps out, the 5 value, 10 steps out. We move up from there. The 6 value steps back to 8, 7 value remains the same chroma, 8 value steps back to 4, 9 value steps back to, I'm sorry, the 8 value, 8 value is a 6. Sorry about that, it's late, it's been a long day. 9 value steps back to 4. The other direction, from the 4, we move down to the home value, the quinacridone magenta right out of the tube. That is 8 steps out in chroma. Move down to the 2nd value, which is the quinacridone with a little black in it. Steps back to 4. And down a little bit more black to the 1 value, steps back to 2. So here again, we can see that wave. And the chroma chart, pardon me, for the red purple, same thing in chart form, right? Home value plus white. As that white increases, the chroma steps back. As we add black, chroma steps back, right? So red purple then peaks at 10 steps out in chroma, drops back from there. Take a break and get into purple. Okay, we're back with purple. So reminder on the color wheel, purple, home value is a 1, just like the red purple. This is another one where home value and full chroma separate. Full chroma is a 4. But just like with the red-purple, 4 and 3 on the chroma chart are very close and close enough that they actually stack up, but 4 is the full chroma. If we had access to all of these steps, the 3 would be just a little bit behind. 3 value would be just a little bit behind in chroma, but because we've got to jump from 8 to 10, the 3, instead of moving it back an entire step, will stay exactly at the 10th position. So we have full chroma 4, 10 steps out, to 3, stays at 10 steps out, to 2, steps back to 6 steps out, to 1, so that's straight dioxazine, back to 2 steps out. As we move above the 4, goes up in value to a 5, steps back to 8, goes up in value 6, stays at 8 steps out, moves up in value to 7, steps back to 6, steps out in chroma, steps up in value to 8, moves back to 4 steps in chroma, moves up to 9, 2 steps in chroma. Right, so there's your wave, and here is your chart, right? You've got the 3 and the 4 at 10 steps out, and then as you go darker, stepping back at the second value to 6, stepping back at the first value to 2. As you move up, it goes from 10 steps to 8 steps to 6 to 4 to 2. One thing I neglected to mention way back when too, it doesn't hurt as you're listening to these, have your chart in front of you as you're listening to each one of these. Take a pencil and lightly mark off the chroma steps so that you at least know where you're going to fill. You don't have to keep watching the video. You can just mark where the steps are, create your palette, and then put them down. So we will take a break and move to purple blue. Okay, we're back with purple blue, which is our ultramarine blue. On the value scale color wheel, pardon me, ultramarine blue home value is a 1. All we're doing is adding white to get the rest of the string. Chroma peaks at 4 value. But here again, like the last one, 4 and 3, similar enough in chroma that we're going to stack them. And then chroma drops back from there. So 4 value, maximum chroma, 10 steps out. 3 value, stays at 10, down to a 2 value, steps back to 8 steps out in chroma. 1 value, which is the pure ultramarine, steps back to 4 steps in chroma. We move up from 4 value up to 5 value, steps back to 8, up to 6 value, stays at 8, up to 7 value, steps back to 6, pardon me, 8 value, steps back to 4, 9 value, steps back to 2, right? There's our pattern. And our chart, right? Home value plus white peaks at 4, but 3 is very close, stays lined up over the 10. The more white you add, that chroma steps back. Purple, blue. Back in a sec with blue. Okay, back with blue. On the value scale color wheel, blue is at the first value, home value, phthalo turquoise, Winsor Newton phthalo turquoise. To create the string, just add white. Home value is a 1, full chroma, just like the purple and the purple blue. Full chroma is a 4. The 3 value is a close runner-up. So again, we get in a situation where we've got these stacked values. Now you'll notice now that we're in blue, what happened? Even at peak chroma, the blue steps back. It only peaks, not at 10 anymore, but at 8 steps out in chroma. So 4 value is the full chroma, 8 steps out. The 3, a little bit darker in value, still stays at 8 steps. Down to the 2 value, drops to 6 steps out. And the wait a second. The 1, whoopsie. The 1 should be at 4 steps out with a transition in between. So home value, which, I probably will drop it back to 2. That's why I'm always playing around with these things. Let's just keep it where it is. Home value is a 1. That's 4 steps out. Second value steps out to 6 chroma. Third and fourth values are out at the 8 steps in chroma. Then as we begin to add white, the chroma begins to drop. So 5 value steps back to 6 chroma. 6 value still stays at 6 chroma. 7 value still stays at 6 chroma. 8 value steps back to 4 chroma. And the 9 value steps back to 2. So it's just really jammed up in the lower end of the chroma chart. It's the cool colors where we really would benefit doing every step in chroma instead of every other. But again, it's just to give you an idea of the chroma range and how the blue relates to other chromas or how each hue family relates to each other. So you can see, we're at half the amount of scale that we created for the yellow-red. So home value 1 peaks at 4, but it's similar enough to the 3 that they are both at peak chroma at 8, and then the addition of the white begins to drop back from there. So blue, give me a sec, and we'll get to blue-green. Okay, back with blue-green, which is phthalo green. Phthalo green, home value 1, full chroma 4. Just like with the blue, we've got third and fourth values very close in chroma. Also, peaks at 8. And only 8, so even at full chroma, the blue and the blue-green at full chroma are significantly weaker in chroma than the warm side of the spectrum when they're at peak chroma. So fourth value, full chroma, 8 steps out. Third value still stays at 8 steps because we don't have any really would it be, I think, improper to bump it all the way back to 6. So these are stacked up, but the 4 is the more chromatic of the two. 4 is 8 steps, third value is 8 steps, down to the second value, which is 6 steps, and down to the first value, which is the home value at 4 steps. And just like I said with blue, Lord knows at some point I'll probably bump that back to a 2, but for now it's 4 steps out. As we add white, chroma steps back again. So from the 4 value, we go to the 5 value, steps back to 6 steps out in chroma. 6 value stays at 6 steps. 7 value, it's on the edge, but still stays at 6 steps out. Move up to 8 value, bumps back to 4 steps out in chroma. 9 value, down to 2 steps. So again, very compressed. If we had more of the availability here, you could see more variations in between. But again, at least gives a understanding of the chromatic variations of blue-green, even in its limited way. And chroma chart. Home value plus white peaking at 8 steps out. More white that's added, the chroma drops back. Okay, there's blue-green, only 2 more. On to green next. Back in a minute. Okay, back with green. Almost there. So, reminder, on the value scale color wheel, 5th value, permanent green light, Winsor Newton, right? Home value 5. Add white for 6, 7, 8, 9. Down at the 1, we're going to bracket. Remember, the greens are bracketed between phthalo green and raw umber. For the green, we are bracketing 1 part raw umber, 1 part phthalo green, using that to darken our home value, the permanent green light, for values 4, 3, and 2. That's our string. And now, because we're back to a home value, that permanent green light, home value and full chroma are the same. Permanent green light, value 5, peaks at chroma 10. So you see now that we're getting a little warmth in the color. The green is starting to show from blue-green, the green now is starting to veer towards yellow a little bit. The chroma comes up a bit more. Home value 5, chroma 10. Add white up to 6 value, drops to chroma 8 step out in chroma. Add white up to a 7 value, 6 steps in chroma. Add white up to 8 value, 4 steps in chroma. Add white up to 9 value, 2 steps in chroma. Down at the 1 value, we have the phthalo green and raw umber combo, the 1-to-1 bracket. We add this to the home value of permanent green light. That drops it to a 4, steps back to 8 steps out in chroma. Add a little bit more of the 1 value for a 3 value. Doesn't quite jump back enough to drop chroma, so it's still an 8 chroma. So third value is 8 steps out in chroma. Then down to the second value, drops back to 6 steps in chroma, right? There's your wave. And chroma chart. Permanent green light, 10 steps out in chroma, add white, chroma drops back. Phthalo green, raw umber, 1-to-1 mixture at the first value, add this to the permanent green light. For your 4, 3, and 2 values, they step back. 4 and 3 step back to 8 steps in chroma, 2 steps back to 6 steps in chroma, and then back to your 1 value at 2 steps. That's our green. Take a break, and the last one, green yellow. And we are here at the end with green yellow. So, reminder, on the value scale color wheel, green yellow home value is a 7. That's your not permanent green light. That's your cadmium green, Gamblin cadmium green. Add white for your 8 and 9. At the 1, we have another bracketed combination of phthalo green and raw umber. In this case, remember it was that large amount of raw umber, like 8 parts. No, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. It was yellow, green, yellow. 5 parts raw umber to 1 part phthalo green. At the 1 value, that gets added to the 7 home value. The home value is 7, the cadmium green, to darken the cadmium green for your 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, etc. So we have cadmium green, home value 7, chroma 10. Add white to the 8, chroma drops back to 8. Add white to the 9, chroma steps back a little bit more to the 4. Down at the 1, we have our 5 parts raw umber to 1 part phthalo green bracket. 2 steps out in chroma, we add this to the cadmium green to darken to a 6. Steps back to 8 steps out in chroma. Add a little bit more of the bracket to the cadmium green for our 5th value. It darkens but doesn't quite drop in chroma fast enough, so it's still an 8 chroma. Drops down to a 4. Now it steps back to 6 steps out in chroma. Drops down to a 3. Still stays at a 6 steps out in chroma. Still stays at 6 steps out in chroma. Drops down to a 2nd value. Drops to 4 steps out in chroma. And then finally, again, we have our bracket. So what does it look like? Our last chroma chart. That's what it looks like. Cadmium green, 7 value, home value, 10 steps out in chroma. Phthalo green, 1 part, raw umber 5 parts. First value, 2 steps out in chroma. Add white to the cadmium green. Chroma steps back. Add the bracket to the cadmium green. It darkens and steps back in chroma. And that does it. I know it's a long process. It's going to take a while, but as I said, once you do it, it's done. So make sure you take your time, do it properly. Check your chromas from top to bottom, right? Once you get them all mixed out and put on each grid, check your chromas from top to bottom at each step out in chroma. See if you can even up the chromas, or see if you can, find any discrepancies and clean them up. Let the charts dry, and I would suggest putting them, particularly if you do the 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, get some plastic sleeves for them so you can keep them in your notebook. So, any questions about any of this, leave them in the comments section. Hopefully this has been helpful. As I said, long process, but I guarantee it's going to help you with your understanding of these color families and the chromatic variations. I keep saying that. You're going to be able to picture the chromatic variations in at least these 10 color families. That will all help in your ability to analyze color in the future when you're looking at things in front of you. So I say adieu for the night. Again, any questions, leave them in the comments section. If you like the material, please hit like and subscribe. Hopefully next time we will actually get into applying all this knowledge to a real setting, a still life, or something else. Thank you for all of your patience, for your hard work, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.